Okay, so we'll just have a look at a couple of techniques, just some more things you can use to for your fantasy image assessment. So I was saying the other day, some important things to make something look real when you're adding, a number of images together, are shadow and lighting. Okay, they're pretty important stuff. If you put two images together and one's got light coming from one direction and one's got it from the other, and the shadows are all over the place, then you know that they weren't taken at the same time, or it looks a bit weird. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is having a look at adding a shadow to someone. So I just put a couple of photos on the P drive. So I think, actually, is that one going to have enough room? Oh, wait a minute. All right, so let's go into the P drive and let's open up. So they're in the source photos folder. So that one I've just put in there of Manith. And also there's one called Tony Cutout. Okay, I'm just using that one because it's I've already cut out the picture and I don't want to spend time cutting out another photo, but this is a previous student of mine. Okay, so just those two photos. Now, I did say the other day I used this for another picture, and you can see that the lighting is actually a lot different. This was taken with the studio light in the classroom, so it's actually quite bright, okay, and it seems to be saturated, so we will adjust those as well. But I've already cut him out, so that's why it's just easy to use that photo. So did everyone find that? Yeah, so it's that one. It's 4933 it ends in. You look like you're just sunning yourself or something, Manith. Now this one, I think must have been taken on a cloudy day. There are actually no shadows here, but that's all right. We're going to add in a picture, and add some shadows and stuff. We'll just assume it was a sunny day. So. All right, so we've got that one, and we've got that other one called Tony Cutout. Okay, so you can just drag Tony into the scene here. Okay, obviously he's really big. Which one? That's Tony Cutout. Tony Cutout. It's the PSD file. Yep. Now it's not, have a look at his hair. Obviously it needs a bit of work there, but I'm not going to, spend time doing things there. So he's a bit big, so we can resize him. Now remember, when you resize, hold the shift key and drag from a corner. We don't want it, we'll make him a giant, okay? So don't make him too small, but just so he fits in the scene. Okay, but we'll make him a bit bigger there. So Manith's surveying the situation, he's come across this giant. You could even, if you wanted to, you could actually have Tony's head off the image and just show his legs, so because he's so huge if you wanted to. I'm just going to show his whole body, but, there's a couple of things you could do there. Hold the shift button and drag from one of the corners to resize it. Oh, have you got the... you're on your move tool. Have a look at the top. You should have auto select and show transform controls ticked along the top. Yeah, if you're on a different computer, things get changed. So and then you'll see the corners and the outline. Has everyone else got that? Yeah. Sorry, was that? Oh, yeah, that's right. If you don't have it, and that's why I always have it there, to save that extra step. Okay, so to start with, we might actually adjust his the brightness and maybe the saturation a little bit to try and blend it in to make it look like the photo was taken at the same time as the rest of it. And actually, what you can also do is you can adjust the colouring of the background photo as well. So remember, I said I often use levels, like auto levels, to kind of adjust something, so you could do that as well. But obviously they need to match. Okay, so if you want to just click on the background layer, and we'll just adjust the levels of that one first. And let's add an adjustment layer. So right above the layers panel, so you've got this adjustments panel here. Yeah. You just drag it across. The move tool, go to the move tool. Okay, and just click and drag it across. Drag it across. It can't move. Same as yours. So what did you do? Oh, sorry, yes, diamond. Have you got auto select and show transform controls ticked up the top? So they are. Well, it should move. Just click on it. All right, so just make him, you can make him whatever size you want, okay? Like I said, you can make him still huge and he's off the screen if you want. Okay, so just click on your background layer. Okay, so make sure that layer is highlighted there. And we're just going to add an adjustment layer just to, brighten it up a little bit. We're just going to adjust the levels a bit. If you don't have the adjustment panel there, okay, you can get it from the window menu, adjustments, or also at the bottom of the layers panel there's like a little black and white circle. It's the same thing. If you click on that, you can get them from there as well. Okay, so there's a few different places you can find them. You can't click on the background. Were you resizing your, did you press enter to apply? Remember, you've got to apply the transformation, otherwise it won't let you do anything else. Okay? Yep, so if it's not letting you do anything else, you've got to apply that transformation. Yep, all right. Okay, so click on the background layer. So we'll do a levels adjustment. Okay, see up there, it's the second one across on your adjustment panel. All right, and so we can click auto, see what that looks like. It's sort of, it made it a little bit more contrasty, looks a bit nicer. And I think that's enough actually. I don't need to do anything else to it, but obviously if you wanted to, do other stuff, you've got other adjustment options there. Okay. Let's go to our Tony layer. So click on that one. And we want to try and adjust the colouring and whatever of this layer so it matches the background layer, or as close as we can get to it. Okay. So I think it's a bit too bright, okay, for me. And also, we'll after we do that, we'll see what it looks like. But we might want to adjust the saturation or something as well. So we could try brightness and contrast. We could try levels. Okay, so let's try a levels layer here. Now, because the Tony layer is above the background layer, we need to, when we add an adjustment layer, we need to clip it to this layer. Otherwise, it'll just affect every layer that's underneath. All right, so once we select the levels adjustment here, okay, so if you click that, let's just, before we do any changes here, if you hold the Alt key, okay, hold the Alt button down, and if you put your mouse between the levels layer and the Tony layer, can you see I'm just moving it up and down so that my cursor changes? It'll change into a black arrow with a white square. Okay, if you move it up or down, it's got the hand, but we want that one. It's when you put it over that line in between them. Okay, and what that's saying is if you click that, it'll clip it just to that layer, so it'll only affect that layer. Okay, so I'm holding the Alt key down. That's how you'll get that, and I'll just click the button, and then it kind of, see, it just sort of moves it in. Okay, do you want me to do that again? Anyone? Yes. All right. So I'm holding the Alt key on your keyboard. Put your mouse on that line that's in between the levels and the Tony layer. Okay, so you've got an arrow. It's like a hooked arrow, and just click your mouse. Click your left button. Yep, and you should see it'll kind of indent. Oh yes, we should be on yeah, are we okay up here, guys? Yeah? All right. Yeah, we're okay? All right, thanks, Kim. All right, no, that's all right. Okay, so now any changes that we do, it'll only affect that layer. Okay, so and you might have noticed also the histogram changed as well because originally it was for the whole background. All right, so we could try clicking auto, see what it does. It makes it a little bit darker. Okay, so it's probably okay, and I think I'm probably going to adjust the saturation of it. I still feel it's a bit bright though. Whoops, wrong side. So you could try and change it there. I don't know, maybe a brightness and contrast or something. I can't remember what I did on the other one. I think I might have done. I'm not going to open it up to check. I think I actually did brightness and contrast or something. I'll leave that levels one there, and then we can also add another one of brightness and contrast. So if we click that one, and again you have to clip it. Okay, each time you add one you have to clip it the same way we did it. Okay, so I selected it there on the adjustment panel and then pressed Alt and click. Okay, so this one, so if you just move the sliders up and down you can see what it does. Okay, so yeah, I'm just going to turn the brightness down a little bit. I think it needs actually a little bit more work, but I think probably just turning the saturation down a bit will help as well. Okay, so I've only adjusted the brightness slightly, just to the left, makes it darker. And then the other one we want is hue and saturation. Okay, which is on the second row of the adjustment panel. And that's the first one on the second row. And again, I'm clipping it to that layer. Now this one, all we want to do is just turn the saturation down just a bit until you're happy with it. If you go right to the end, you'll notice you make him black and white. Now you could do that as well, like if you're doing some effect where you might have your background black and white and your person in color or something. That could be something you might want to do. But anyway, I'm just turning it down just a bit, just so it's a bit less colourful. Okay, and actually I think that fits in better with the background. Okay, so I mean you could probably do away with one of the brightness and contrast or levels. It's up to you. It's really just a matter of fiddling around to see what looks the best. Okay, but that's why also you need to adjust your background image first, because you're trying to match this to the background image, and then if you obviously go back and change your background image later, they're not going to match. Okay, so long as you've got something like that, and it looks, like it's similar lighting. Okay, we all okay there? Yeah, you guys? Yes? All right. Okay, so we've got our colouring set up, and so now we're going to add a shadow, because at the moment he looks a bit weird, like he's just sort of standing there. Although there aren't actually any shadows. You can see Manith doesn't actually have a shadow either, because the sun was behind the clouds or whatever, but you could add a shadow to him as well. But he does look a bit like he's floating in midair, so so we're going to add a shadow to Tony. Now, when we did the car and landscape at the beginning, we just added a really simple shadow. We just painted like basically underneath the car. But a person is different because there's a shape. All right, so we're going to create a shaped shadow to make it look more realistic. All right, so first of all, we want to add a blank layer that's going to go underneath Tony. All right, that's what we're going to put the shadow on. Don't put any shadows on, like don't paint it on the background layer or anything, because you've got no control then about, changing the opacity or anything like that. So you always want to do things like shadows on new layers. Okay, so at the bottom of your layers panel, all right, we've got this little icon that looks like a page, a page with a corner. That's new layer. All right, so if you do that, now if you were clicked on the Tony layer like me, it actually comes up and it clips to it. We don't want that. Just move it so it's underneath the Tony layer. Now, I should just say, when you're doing something with multiple layers like this, try and name your layers, keep them organized. Okay, have I shown you how to name layers? I think I have, but anyway, you just double click on the layer name. So where I've got Tony, if I just double click that, I could call it Tony, I'm going to call it Giant. Okay, because he's going to be my character. And the new layer I just created, I can call it Giant Shadow. Whoops. All right, and it gives you, when you're looking at something with multiple layers, you've got a better idea of what belongs where then, if they're named. All right, so we're on our blank layer. Okay, so to get what we want is the shape of Tony, which we're going to fill with a shadow. So can anyone give me an idea how we would get a selection around Tony? We talked about this the other day. So if you've got something that's already cut out, I know you know. Anyone remember how to do this? It was only the other day, 2 days ago, we talked about it. We did it with you missed the frog thing, so you might not remember, but anyone else? Come on. Really, no one remembers at all. This is very sad. This is really... Okay, so we've got Tony is cut out. We've got his shape, right? If I hold the Control key and click on the thumbnail, okay, in the Layers panel, all right, so remember I'm holding the Control key down and I've got the finger and it's got the dotted square there. Does anyone remember that? Okay, and then you just click on it and see you'll get a selection around the cutout. What? If you hold Control, hang on, I'll do that again. So hold the Control key and you just put your mouse over the thumbnail image. So in the Layers panel here, okay, the thumbnail is the little image here of the cutout that you want the selection of. And so you'll get a finger and then you'll get like a dotted square. Yes? Okay, so if you click that, that will give you a selection of the cutout shape. Yeah? Okay. So everyone's got that? Yeah, you don't have to be on that layer to get that cutout. Remember where we clicked on our blank layer, we don't have to click on the layer with the shape, okay, to get the selection. All right, so we've now got this selection of the shape. So to make a shadow, we can fill that with black, but you've got to think about how sharp you want your shadow to be. If it's a really sunny day and the sun's overhead, you might have really harsh shadows, okay? If the sun's behind a bit of cloud and you've got softer shadows, then we need to feather the edge a bit, okay? So that's up to you to decide how soft you want your thing. Depends what else is in your image. But remember, all your shadows pretty much need to be the same, okay? So we're going to feather that edge a little bit, so we'll have a little bit of a soft shadow. Now, when we've done things before where we've cut things out, like we've put the selection around it with the lasso tool, and then we've feathered it, this is a bit different because it's actually empty, all right? And we're going to then fill it later. So it's sort of a reverse way of doing it. So we're going to feather this selection edge, but we won't get any preview because it's not filled with anything yet, okay? So it's pretty much a guess, is what I'm saying. At this point, you're guessing because there's no preview. So but that's all right. You fill it, and then if it's no good, you undo it and change it. Okay. So let's go up to the select menu. So remember, this is a selection. So anything to do with selections is in the select menu. Okay. If you can't think where you might find things, think about what it is that you're doing. So we'll go up to the select menu. So previously we went into refine edge. You could do that, although as I said, there's no advantage to that because we can't get a preview because there's nothing there. Okay, so you could do that. The other option is to go into modify, which is just below refine edge, and see there's one there called feather. Okay, this is what you used to do before Photoshop added refine edge. I can't remember what version they added that, but this is all you had, so you could only ever guess. Okay. Anyway, so we'll do it this way. So we'll go into modify and feather, and it's saying, well, just put in an amount. Okay. So like I said, it's a guess, and if you do this a lot, then you'll be able to guess better. Okay. Now with this one, and honestly, I can't even remember how many pixels I did here. So that's got 30 pixels, which is actually quite a lot. But because this is a high resolution image, that might be okay. So I'm just going to say let's do 30 pixels. Okay. You might have it there because I did this exercise with my TVET class, and that might have been actually what we used. So, all right. So we're just going to say 30 pixels, and we'll see what that looks like. All right. So say okay. Now, I don't know if you noticed, the selection has changed slightly. So it's just become a bit more rounded. If you have a look around his hand and between his legs, it's kind of changed it slightly, like it's not right on the cutout. So that's the feathering. It's sort of just softened it a bit. Okay, so that's what it does. All right, so we've now got a softened selection. So we just want to fill that with black. Okay, so we can just use the paint bucket to do that. And just make sure you've got black as your top color there. You can go to D. If you press D, that'll give you the default colors, or X will swap them around if you've got a different color on top. Okay, but we just want black on top. So if you just choose the paint bucket, okay, the paint bucket will just, fill a color if you just click with something. So make sure you click inside that selection. Now I'll just check again, make sure you're on that blank layer, because if you're not, it's going to fill whatever layer you're on. Okay, so you should be on the shadow layer. All right, so if you just click inside the selection, just do that. Now, because the shadow's underneath the guy, you won't see obviously all black, but you'll see a bit of a black halo around him. Okay, that's the feathered shadow. Yep, did we all get that kind of effect? You can see the edge of the shadow happening. Yes. If you're not sure, have a look on your layer panel. You should see a little silhouette figure. Okay, if it worked. Yeah, yes, Erica, you got that? Yeah? Okay, all right. Okay, so that's fine. So now we need to deselect at this point. So Control D. And we're going to transform that shadow because obviously the shadow needs to be on the ground. Okay, so we need to do some stuff to it so it's on the ground. All right, so if you go back to your Move tool, you'll then see you'll have the handles of the shadow. All right, now at this point, you need to check the other shadows in your picture. As I said, this one doesn't really have any shadows, so we can just put it wherever we like and we can add some other shadows later. But what we do need to do is to go into the transform option, if we just do it by grabbing the handles, that really only does sort of up and down. It doesn't give us much. We can do some other things. There are some other transform options we can do. Okay, so if we go into the edit menu, whoops, and transform, and you'll see there's a few different transform things here, because when you do it with the transform handles, that's just a free transform. Okay, so you can make it skinnier or wider or taller, but not much else. Okay, so you've got some different options here. You can rotate it, you can skew it, you can distort it. Perspective will kind of make it smaller at one end. So remember, perspective, if you're looking at, you know, train tracks, for instance, okay, it's wider at where you are and skinnier, so that's what perspective does. Skew and distort is what we'll be using. They kind of let you grab like one corner and, you know, do different things. And I can't remember which one does which, so I just use both of them. So let's just try the skew one. Okay, so if you've got skew, I mean, we need to do a few things here. We actually need to move it down, which we could have done with the free transform. Skew, okay, so skew does it this way. All right, so I've just grabbed the middle handle at the top there, and see I can move it, you know, left or right kind of thing. Sorry? The time. Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you need to look at the shadows in the rest of the picture, okay? And we don't have any, so we're just going to make our own kind of thing here. So, all right, so that's what skew does. I think it does, yeah, it does actually let you grab one of the corners as well, and so you can do things there. And then the other one, transform distort, that will let you do this, like I just grabbed the middle one. Okay, so that's possibly a better one to use, because we can still go left and right, but we can also go up and down and different things as well. Okay, so this is distort. So decide where your shadow's going. I think I might do mine sort of behind, going up into that area there. So it's just a matter of moving it down, and so it looks like it's on the ground. Now, when you do this, it may move away from his feet, okay? So we just need to move the whole shadow. And this is, I'm just clicking in the middle of the shadow, not one of the handles. Move the shadow so it joins up with his feet. Okay, yeah. Otherwise, he will look like unless you want it to look like he's levitating, actually, because, you know, if the shadow and the body are apart, then obviously his feet are off the ground. Okay, so if I did this, for instance, you know, and had that, and now it looks like he's levitating. Okay, so there you go. So you could do something like that if you wanted to. And maybe that's what Manith is so interested in this photo. He's looking at this guy who's flying, you know. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so you can choose, you know, whatever you like there. Okay, but put your shadow, you know, somewhere on the ground. All right. So that was the distort one. Seemed to be a bit better for that. You could also do perspective. I don't know that this one necessarily needs perspective. But if it was something really long, like maybe if you had if he was like a huge giant, okay, and his shadow was enormous, then I'd probably add a bit of perspective. Let me just do a bit of perspective actually and see what it looks like. Perspective is really just, see how it just moves in like that? Okay, so if he was really tall, or if it was, you know, at the end of the day you have really long shadows, okay, so if you wanted to do that and stretch out his shadow a bit more, then I would add in some perspective as well. Okay, but that's what perspective does. All right, so, you know, I don't know. I'll just add a little tiny bit of perspective. Okay. So once you're happy with your transformation, remember to press enter, and that will apply those changes. Okay. And then, of course, that's a really dark shadow. You want to change the opacity a little bit, just to make it match your other shadows. So in your layers panel, there you've got opacity. All right, let's just turn it down a bit. Let's just see. I don't know, you can choose Yeah, something like that. The mine's like that's around halfway. I think it's probably a good enough shadow. What's that? Oh, it's all right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so you can choose that to whatever matches the other shadows. And then the last thing you want to do there is link the object and the shadow together. So if you have to move it or resize it or something, they will do it together. Okay? So if you click on one layer, so at the moment I've got the giant shadow selected, hold the shift key, click on the other layer. Alright, so they're selected together. And remember at the bottom you've got this little link icon. So it's the first option there at the bottom of the layers panel. Alright, so if you click that, so they're linked together. So now if I move him around, his shadow moves with him. Okay, and also if you resize it, they'll resize together as well. Okay, if you decide he needs to be bigger or smaller or whatever. Yep. Yeah, okay, so which part do you want me to go back to? So have you got the selection up? Yeah? Okay, so you just need to fill it. All right, that's fine. I'll just go back to that bit. Actually, let me just go back here. All right, so you've got the selection like that, Joe? The selection around Tony? Yep. Okay, if anyone, I'm just doing this bit again. So just make sure you're on your new layer. You're on your blank layer. Yep. Paint bucket. And have you got black on top of your colour thing there? Yep. Just click inside the selection. Just somewhere inside. Have you got that? Okay, and so then if you had I've lost my shadow now because I went back, but obviously if you had other objects you were adding in, all their shadows would go in the same direction and you'd have the same opacity and all that sort of stuff. Now with Beneath here, he doesn't have a shadow, so you could add a shadow. It's just it's an added complexity there because he's not cut out. So if you wanted the shape of him, you would have to go around him with the lasso tool, or you could just, and actually, yes, and an extra complexity there is because he's in the background layer, okay? So the only way to add a shadow for him would be to paint it on that layer or to actually cut him out and paste him onto a new layer, so then you could put a shadow on a layer in between. Okay, so, but yeah. All right, so you're probably better off just having a photo of a landscape to start with and then adding your people later, okay, for this particular exercise, if you're going to be adding shadows and things. All right? Okay, so did everyone get that okay? Yeah? So we understand what we were doing there? Yes? Alrighty. Okay. Oh, actually, another thing you could do, in this case it probably doesn't need it, but if you had a photo where you had some depth of field going, so you had someone in focus, I don't know if there's any here, but in focus in the foreground and then the background was out of focus. But anyway, I'm not going to bother looking for a photo, but you know what I mean. And you were adding something into that photo, you might have to blur the added object depending on where they are in your scene. Okay, do you understand what I mean? So do you remember that shallow depth of field? So if you've got someone in the foreground and then the background is out of focus. Yes. Okay. So if you added in another object in the background or something, it would have to match the blurriness, okay, of wherever they are in the photo. So you would just add a blur filter to that situation. But again, that's about, matching it to the photo, okay? Yeah, all right. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at, and I did show you, I've got to put this in the source photos. the Terminator photo. Actually, I think it was in another folder. Let me just see if it was in this folder. Okay, this is another student photo that I did. Okay, so we made someone into the Terminator. All right. Okay, and that's just adding layer masks and different layers and things. So we'll have a look at doing that one. And I did find, I think we're going to use a photo of Diamond to do that. Yes, there we are. So if you want to open this photo, all right, the 1636, it's in the source photos folder. Sorry, Diamond, that you just happen to be in a lot of photos. So. And there's this photo called Terminator Robot, which is, one's high res and one's low res, so we'll just change the size to suit. You can save it if you want, that's up to you. I'm not going to collect it, so see, I actually tell you when I'm going to collect things. Okay, now with this one, see, so this Terminator photo is quite a low res image, and this one is, because it's straight out of the camera, it's a high res image, so that's fine. I think what we'll probably do, I think we'll just copy a selection of this photo and put it into a new image, or actually we could probably put it straight on top of this one. Yeah, I think that's what we'll do. All right, let's just copy a selection here. So if you want to use your rectangular marquee tool, and we'll just select a section, something like that, okay? Because we only need her face for this. Now we could just, we should be able to just drag that across, or we could copy and paste it in the other image. Works the same way. So if I, to copy it across, I just use the move tool and drag that selection, and see, I can just drop it in here. Now it's still too big. Oh, it's a little bit out of focus actually, but anyway, that's fine. So we still need to make it a little bit smaller. Okay, so that's what I did. I just used the rectangular marquee tool just to select an area in that photo. And then I just used the move tool and dragged it across into the Terminator photo. Yeah. Well, you don't have to. You can copy and then go into the other one and paste. I'm just dragging across because it's got the selection there. It'll only drag that area of it. Okay, it's the same result. You okay, Joe? All right, have you got the rectangular marquee tool? It's the second one down from, that's just underneath the move tool, yeah, and just drag and to make a square selection around her head. Include a bit of the background because we're going to rotate it a bit or do some stuff there. Yeah, have you? Yep. And then just go to the move tool and click inside that selection and drag it over onto the Terminator photo. Yeah, just inside where you've selected it. That's it. Oh, yeah, you want a bigger selection than that. That's not big enough. Okay, just include some of the background. So just deselect and do another one. Yeah, cancel. Or press the escape key. Or cancel, escape, Control D, just to get rid of that selection and do the selection again. Okay. And just, can you see how much I've selected here? So from like the tree, just to have a bit of extra there. Yep, and now move it with the move tool. Yep, and just let go. Yeah, and just drag it all the way across. That's it. And just let go with the mouse. Have you? What's happening? Yeah. All right, so we've got this. So obviously it's still too big. So if you want to just zoom out, so control minus a few times. Okay, until we can see how we can now see the edge of the thing. So we want to make it a bit smaller. Remember, shift key. We don't need the whole photo in there. We just need, about the size of her head there, something like that. Okay, and I'm going to press the enter key. Now what you can do is reduce the opacity of this layer so that we can see the picture underneath, because we need the heads to be about the same size. Now her head's on an angle, so we could either rotate her head or rotate the Terminator head, but if you rotate her head, then the background is also going to be rotated. So in this case, I'm going to rotate the Terminator head to match the angle of Diamond's head. Okay. Now, because we put this directly onto the Terminator, you can see it says background and it's locked. We need to unlock that background layer to rotate it. Okay. It's easy to do. You just double click on the background layer. And it comes up and sort of makes it into a new layer. So you can just say, okay, so now it's unlocked and we can rotate it and do whatever. Sorry, am I jumping too far ahead? I'll just do that bit again. So we zoomed out a bit. Okay, just so you can see the edges of the photo, and then you can resize it. So hold the shift key, drag from a corner, yep, and just so, move it in, and you'll need to keep repositioning it because it's off the screen. So you can then just grab it. Okay. Don't when you're resizing it, don't let the handles get off the document page, because then it'll just be harder to move. Okay, you won't be able to grab it and move it. Yep, so you want her face a bit smaller still. Yep. What did you say, Chris? Have you zoomed right out? It's pretty big, so you've got to keep zooming out until you see the handles. Or do you have you got show transform controls ticked? Yeah. Okay, so just make it a bit smaller and position it so that her head's kind of, just in the middle of the page. Yep, on the layers panel, just reduce the opacity. Yep. Make sure you press enter to apply that transformation, otherwise it probably won't let you do anything if you've been resizing. Joe, are you holding shift and doing it from the corner? Or are you doing it from the side? Okay. Sorry, it won't. Yeah. Hang on. Okay. So if you just reduce the opacity just so you can see underneath, unlock that background layer just by double clicking it. Okay, I've already done that. So if you double click it, it'll come up and say new layer. So on the background layer, so just make sure you don't have the little padlock there. Yes, we're okay. All right. So, so on the background layer, go to the background layer, and we want to rotate that head to match the angle of Diamond's head. All right. So if you put your mouse outside one of the corners, you'll get a curved arrow. And so you'll only get this if the background layer is unlocked. All right, that's why we had to unlock the background layer. Does anyone want me to do that bit again? Yes? Okay. And let me just go back here. All right. Okay, so your background layer is locked. If it says background and there's a padlock, then obviously it's still locked. All you have to do is double click on that background layer. So where it says background, double click, and it'll come up and say new layer. Now at this point you could name that as well, so I could call it Terminator. Whatever, but it just makes it into an unlocked separate layer. Okay? So that's what we need. So now we can rotate it. Yep. So did everyone get their background layer unlocked? Hands up if your background layer is unlocked. Yes, good. All right. We will continue. Okay. So you're on that layer. You're on that background layer. And you'll see now you should have the transform handles. I'm just going to zoom up a little bit more. Okay, the transform handles. So if you put your mouse outside one of the corners, you'll get this curved arrow. So that means we can rotate it. Yeah? See how I'm rotating it? So I just want to put it at just a little bit of an angle, and I can move it as well. So it's easy if you match up the eyes and the mouth. Now, you might need to resize one of them. So either resize the Terminator or Diamond's face to sort of get the mouth and the eyes matching up. Right, I'm just making it a little bit. Okay, so you're just trying to match up the eyes and the mouth. Now, I know the Terminator's head is a bit sort of longer and skinnier. You might choose to actually, you've got a very round face, Diamond. You might actually choose to distort the Terminator picture a bit so it fits in her face, because all we're going to see like bits of it, like an eye and a mouth and maybe a bit of the side. So in fact, this one, I might actually widen the face of the Terminator because Diamond's got a very wide face, and so I want to try and match it up so that when I add a bit of stuff on the side, it'll get some of the metal bit there. Yes, Chris? Oh, up there? Oh, well, you don't need them, but they're in the view menu, view and rulers there. Yeah, but we don't actually need the rulers for this, but yeah. Okay, so just kind of position it a bit, you know. But the eyes are probably the most important bit for this. And you might just need to adjust your rotating and, you know, whatever. Okay? The Terminator's on the bottom layer and Diamond's on top. Yeah. What? What's the matter? Yes, that's because remember I reduced the opacity of Diamond to match it up. Yeah, that's how we're matching it. So on the Diamond layer, yeah, just reduce your opacity a bit. Yeah, that's how we're matching it up. We okay? Yep. How are we going there, guys? I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, but just like if you get the eyes matched up, and I just stretch the Terminator face a bit just to kind of match in with Diamond's face. And normally you wouldn't want to do that. Remember, you usually want to keep things in proportion, but in this instance, you know, we want the metal and whatever to kind of match under her face. Chris? Oh. All right, hang on. Okay, so if you've been transforming, just make sure you press enter to apply that transformation. Okay? All right, so once you've done that, go back to your top layer and just turn the opacity up again to 100%. Okay? See, she looks like a normal girl, but then things happen and, you know. All right. So what we need to do now is we're going to add a couple of layers. Actually, I'm just wondering, do we want to have a break now? Or, continue? Is everyone okay to continue? All right. Okay. Yep. Oh my God. All right. We want to add a couple of blank layers. So if you're on at the bottom of the layers panel, just click that new layer button a couple of times. And we need to drag diamond right back up to the top again. So they're going to be in between our two things there. All right, and we're just going to add some colour to these two layers. So what we're planning on doing is kind of getting rid of some of her skin, so we can see the Terminator underneath. But then, you know, in between, you've got layers of, you know, whatever a cyborg has between their skin and the metal. Okay, so we're just going to add some colours here. So just click on one of the blank layers, and let's go to our colour picker. And I think I normally pick sort of an orangey kind of colour, like a burnt orange-ish colour. And the other one's sort of a khaki green colour. So, but you can choose whatever colours you like. Okay, just think this is in between the skin and the metal. All right. All right, so I'm just choosing that kind of orangey colour to start with. And then all you need to do is choose the paint bucket and click. Now we can't see the layer, but because we've got the layer selected there, it's going to fill that layer. Okay, see how it filled? My little thumbnail is now orange. Okay, so just make sure you've got the blank layer selected on your layers panel. And then you just use the paint bucket and you can click and it'll fill it with whatever colour you've got there. I mean, you could make this red. Red's probably better for like blood and stuff, but you know, whatever. It's yeah. So make sure you've got the blank layer selected first. So just click one of the blank layers and then use your paint bucket and you just click and it'll fill it with that colour. Oh, okay. All right. Did you re-upload the stuff from the other day? Yeah, okay. I haven't checked it yet, so it's... Yep. Yep. You can't do it. Okay, so that's one layer, and then the other layer, click on the other blank layer, and we want another colour, and I sort of use kind of a khaki green, kind of, you know, something like that. The thumbnail, yes, we'll change. You won't see it on the screen because diamond is on the top, but on the thumbnail it will show a coloured square. Okay. All right, so the other one I'm choosing sort of a khaki green kind of colour. And same thing, just the paint bucket and click on that layer. So you should see in your layers panel, you should see the two coloured layers there. Yeah. Okay, so we're okay there. Now, what you could also do there is add some textures with filters or something. You can even add some textures with photos, like you could overlay a photo and clip it to that layer, and you know, there's different things you could do. So let's just add some texture to that. Let's go up to the filter menu. And No, I think if you go to the filter gallery, the filter menu and then filter gallery, there's some textures up there. Actually, I like that one, sandstone, but just any of those. You could add some grain or other things. Okay, I'm just going to add some a sandstone filter to that. And then the other one as well. So click on your other layer, same thing. You can choose the same or, a different thing. We're just adding an extra, sort of thing there. Okay, so I've gone into the filter gallery and there's a texture category there. And then there you can choose sandstone or there's, other ones, canvas. Okay, so I've just put a sandstone texture on mine, but, you can choose whatever. No, you can do whatever you like, and in fact, you don't even need to add texture at all. This is just something extra you can do. You can just choose whatever. They can be the same, they can be different. It's all experimentation. So, all right. So, are we okay to continue? Yeah. So then the last bit, so we can start seeing some things, we want to add a layer mask to each of these 3 layers. So the top layer, which is diamond, and then the 2 coloured layers, add a layer mask. So at the bottom of your layers panel, remember, there's the little add layer mask icon. Yep. Okay, so they're blank layer masks at the moment. All right. Add so you've got your 2 coloured, so blank layer masks we've added, but to each of those 3 layers. So click on one, then click add layer mask, click on the next one, click on add layer mask. Yep. So you should have 3 white rectangles on the side there. All right, so we'll go back to our top layer, and remember, click on the layer mask. So that's the white rectangle, not on the thumbnail. We're going to paint on the layer mask. Okay, so we're on that top layer. So we need to use our brush. Remember, with layer masks, you're using your paint tool. So in this case, we're going to use a brush. And we can use some sort of a textured brush. So let's have a look. Something like one of these kind of dry brush looking ones. That's I don't know, I've just chosen this one here. Something that's just got a bit of texture to it. Okay, if you think what's happening here is her skin is going to fall away. So I think what's happened, like maybe the skin's been torn off, or I don't know, whatever happens in Miller College, you never know when you go outside. And so all right, so I'm just choosing one of these kind of textured brushes. All right. And you should have black on top. So remember, layer mask, you're painting in black and white. So black will remove an area of the layer mask. Okay, so we want black on top. And I'm just going to start painting around her eye. Now what I'm seeing at the moment is the layer that's directly underneath. In this case, it's this mustardy coloured one. Okay, so I'm just sort of painting a little bit there. And because I've chosen that textured brush, I'm getting a rough edge to it. Okay, so I'm getting something like that. You've got a lot of layers and things on your thing, Joe. I'm going to have a look. Yeah, so I've just made it big enough. So I've gone out to her eyebrows there, something like that. All right, so then go down to the next layer. Remember, click on the layer mask. Okay, and do the same thing, but leave a little bit of the edge there so you can see the colour. Okay, so don't go right to the edge. We're sort of getting layers. Okay, so we're seeing layers of the skin. And then same thing, go to the next layer, and then now we will see the Terminator eye. She looks so happy about it too. Okay, so you're getting some things there. What's that? Yeah. So it's on each layer. So you can see in my layer mask here, I've got little black spots where I've painted the eye. But as you go down in levels, the black spot is getting smaller and smaller because we want to see the edge there around the eye. That's like the layers of the skin. Okay. So if your first one was too small, you can always go back to that one and paint a bigger area. Okay. Now, of course, you can do that to other sections of the face. All right, so same thing, just go back to your, so I'm going to do her mouth. Don't forget you can change the size of your brush as well. Okay, now it still looks a little bit fake because it looks a bit flat. Okay, so we also need to have a look at adding a bevel sort of effect to it. Okay, so oops. So if you want to go back to your top layer, okay, so click on the diamond layer, and remember layer styles. I think we had a quick look at layer styles at one point. They're at the bottom of the layers panel. It's the little FX symbol there at the bottom of your layers panel. So if you click on that, see you've got these different things here. Okay, so we can try the bevel and emboss one, which is right at the top. So bevel and emboss makes something look a bit kind of 3D. It makes it look either raised up or pushed in or something. Okay, so if we try the bevel and emboss, just move that to the side so you can see. It does give you a preview. See, it's giving a bit of an effect there at the moment, so it kind of looks like it's pressed in a bit. There's a few different ones there. So at the top where it says style, so inner bevel I think is the default. Just try the different ones and see what they look like. Okay, so outer bevel, actually outer bevel looks quite good. It looks more like a crater. Inner bevel looks a bit sort of a softer one. You've got emboss. Pillow emboss looks like something is pressed into an area. Okay, stroke emboss doesn't work for this one, but I might go with outer bevel actually. Now, if you notice with these bevel and emboss things, they have a shadow as well. So remember how we talked about shadows and things? So you would need to check that the shadow was, like if you had other shadows in the photo, that the shadow was going in the same direction. And in this section here in the dialog box, it's got shading and it's got the angle. So I could drag this little thing around, like it's got 30 degrees is the angle, but I can grab this X on here and it says direction of light source, so I can move that to a different side, and you'll see that the shadows go on the other side, okay, or move them down there or whatever. But make sure if you're doing this, see it's got a thing that says use global light and the box is ticked. The box should always be ticked because what that means is if you have any other bevel and emboss things on this document, they'll all use the same light direction. Okay, which remember we've said that's very important. Okay, so I've just moved it around just to see what it looks like. So I'm going to use outer bevel, I think, for this one. But you probably need to do that on each layer as well. Okay, so I've got that on the top layer. If I go to the bottom one, and I'll do the same thing, because remember you've got multi-layers of skin and whatever there. I'm just going to choose outer bevel for all of them for mine, but you can choose whatever you prefer. So Joe, do you know where I don't know, you're creating a whole heap of, yeah, so essentially each layer you'd put your, yeah, I mean, you could do it with just one or two layers, but I think it looks better when it's on each layer because it really gives that sort of, 3D kind of effect there. So you can see now that looks more real because it looks like it's actually, the skin is torn away and you can see the bit underneath, whereas before, if I just take those effects off, see they've got eyes on them, that looks a bit flat. Okay, so it just looks like it's painted on the surface or something. But that's why you need those extra effects there. Okay. Depending on what you're doing, you might want to paint in some extra shadows or do some other things. There's the burn tool. Now, oh, hang on, which one is it under? Here. Okay. Here's another tool. It's got dodge and burn. Dodge and burn is for when you want to make just one area lighter or darker. Okay. The term actually comes from the darkroom. I don't know if everyone's done any darkroom, with like black and white film and stuff, and that's what they used to do, dodge and burn under the light to make things lighter or darker. So it's still called here. So you can do, so burning, I think burning makes it darker, or dodging makes it darker. I can't remember. I usually have to do it and then see which one works. But, if you wanted to make one area darker or something, you could do that. Like for instance, I don't know that this is actually going to work too well, but see on the top of Diamond's forehead, she's got this shiny bit. I could try and do that. Now I'm just dodging at the moment. It's actually not going to work because it's too highlighted and it's burnt out. But see how I'm just going over and over and over there? It's making the skin around it darker. Can anyone see that? It hasn't actually affected that reflection because it's lost detail there. I don't know if you can you see the skin is just a bit darker there? Can anyone see that? But that's using the burn tool. So if there's just one area of something you want to make a bit darker, okay, that is one option that you could do. Actually, just while I'm saying that, I'll just undo that. I don't need to do that. Just while I'm saying that, actually, adjustment layers also have masks that you can use. So if you want to, so if I wanted to do the same thing on Diamond's face, but only affect a certain part of the layer, okay, so say I've got, what one will I do? Actually, I'll do it with black and white because that'll just show up better to show you what I mean. So if I'm adding a black and white adjustment layer there, I'll just do auto. But I don't want the whole photo to be black and white, right? See up here, see it's got properties and that's the black and white things here. Next to it, there's a mask, okay? And see how it's got a mask there? That's a layer mask. So you could do some stuff here. What brush have I got? Oh, that's right. Let's make my brush a bit bigger. Okay, whoops. Oh, hang on. Why is that not working now? I'm on the layer mask. Oh, now should be right. Okay, now it's not going to work. Oh, no, I'm still on the burn tool. Sorry. Didn't realise I'm still on the burn tool. Sorry, I need to go back to the brush. There you go. Okay, so I'm back on the brush. Okay, see how I'm just painting there? All right. I'm actually painting on the layer mask of the black and white adjustment layer. Okay, so if I only want part of this photo to be black and white, all right, I've got an adjustment layer and I'm painting on the layer mask of the adjustment layer, if that makes sense. All right, so it's kind of a combined thing there. All right, so I can just do this whatever. And I'm actually, I don't know why it looks so orange, actually. See, I've still got that on. I'm just wondering if there's something changed there, but it looks really, the colour looks really weird. But oh no, that's actually the colour of the photo. Okay, that's all right. I just thought it was weird, but that is actually the colour of the photo. It just looks weird in isolation, I think. Yeah. So that's all right. I thought there was just some weird colouring thing going on. But anyway, that's an additional thing you can do, like combining layer masks and adjustment layers, okay? So if you needed to, maybe part of your photo is too dark, so you want to add a levels adjustment just to one side of the photo, maybe it's in shadow or something, you could do that as well, okay? But that's sort of an added, thing there, all right? But yeah, all right, that's just an extra bit. Yeah, so anyway, but that's basically that one. That's just showing you, so again, we've already used layer masks, we've already used adjustment layers. Okay, so these are things that we've already used, but it's just using them in a way that you might not think about. Okay?